Hello and welcome to my discussion. I'm here to talk about a very special topic today, guys, and that is the flight attendant interview process. If you haven't been watching my previous vlogs, which I don't blame you, I really wasn't talking about being a flight attendant, but today I am not neglecting you. Today I'm going to be discussing something that several thousand people have already discussed on YouTube. Yay! But it's okay, because I'm gonna put my own spin on it. I've decided to casually drink a cup of coffee on this table here, where I will relax and have this discussion with you. Make sure you're in your favorite pair of pajamas. Make sure you are sitting comfy in a chair somewhere. No, seriously guys, anyway, I don't really care where you are. You might even travel, I really don't care. So first I'm gonna explain my story, and then I'm going to talk about a couple things that I think really helped during the flight attendant interview process. So my story is that until September of this year, I really had no clue that I wanted to become a flight attendant. Now, that's not 100% true. I've flown many times, and every time I've kind of thought, wow, these flight attendants, they love what they do. You know, one thing I want to put in here is that a lot of times before you get on a plane, you'll see a crew standing outside waiting to board the plane, and they're just laughing and joking around. And around September of this year, we were traveling, and I did get to see that. And it was just one of those things where it sparked in my head, maybe I would want to become a flight attendant too. And so, as always, I started my journey of searching every possible thing on the internet that had to do with becoming a flight attendant. And of course, I realized the same thing that you guys realize. It's a very competitive market. So anyway, in September of this year, I applied for an airline to become a flight attendant. And the process was very quick. They contacted me back about a video interview very shortly after I did the video interview. They then contacted me within a couple days to let me know that they wanted me to come to a face-to-face interview. So I drove there and had the interview, was not impressed at all. They knew just from looking at my resume that they didn't want to hire me, and I wasn't very impressed with that. Anyway, at the same time, I had applied for a different major airline. This one, after being discouraged for a couple months, for literally about a month and a half after getting rejected with this other airline, I received something from the second airline I applied to. It was an email letting me know that I should do another video interview. At this point, I am beginning to love video interviews. I've done a lot of them in the past, and they're just wonderful, aren't they? This brings me on to my next part. About 2 weeks later, they wanted to do a phone screening, of which I did talk to someone, and basically, and I just want to emphasize this is very different for every airline. I did not do a phone screening for the first airline that I applied for, but they wanted to make sure that I didn't have any tattoos, that I could follow the guidelines of what they wear, what a flight attendant wears. They wanted to make sure that I was okay with the schedule the flight attendant has. Basically, they were covering their butts. Should they decide to hire me, then I'm basically signing my life away at this point. So at this point, they said I'd hear back in a couple days, and in a couple days I did. They emailed me asking me when I could come to a face-to-face interview. And that was that. I was flown down to their headquarters where I had an interview. Let me talk a little bit about the interview itself, because that's what I'm sure most of you are either nervous or really excited about if you've gotten to that process. It is a nerve-wracking experience, let me tell you. The thing is that the airline I applied for, it was a really exciting experience, and everyone was just so nice. They fly you complimentary to the headquarters. You stay at a hotel, of which they give you the airline discount rate. Basically, depending on which interview time you get, mine was 7:30 in the morning. I got up, I got on a little shuttle bus. They took me straight to their headquarters. We walk in, we start mingling with everybody. You're talking back and forth with everybody. Basically, I don't think there was any corporate people from the airline there. We were just mingling with people. The thing that I thought was really cool was I was talking with someone from Honolulu, Hawaii. I was talking with someone from California. I was talking with someone from Florida. Really, this is just one of those things where you literally are working with so many people from around the country. It was a really exciting experience and really nerve-wracking because the HR crew comes walking down the stairs. There's about 20 of them, and they're all either HR or flight attendants, and they kind of walk down the stairs and they say, "Welcome." You know, it's like really serious voice, so I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is really it. And they collect our passports, things like that, and we go up to a lounge where it is just a giant lounge, just amazing leather couches everywhere. The interview room circled the lounge. This is the part where they broke us up into groups because they didn't have enough people to interview everyone at once. This is the part where we were broken up into groups. And each one of us did a different thing first. Obviously there weren't enough interviewers to do everything at once, so I was in the first group. We went into an information session. Basically, this guy that spoke to us has been a flight attendant for 40 years, and he was just telling us all about the culture and everything that had to do with that airline, how it worked, and just like your schedule and everything. And from there we went out to kind of a little chat with, it was just an open question time where we could just chat with a flight attendant and ask her whatever questions we want. In the meantime, they had to go and make sure we were tall enough to reach up. I think it was a door of a 747, and we had to just reach up, and they needed to make sure that we were tall enough to pull that door down. Also, they needed to make sure we were small enough to fit into a jump seat. So that's what we did there. The third group, I was like the third group. I was the last group to get interviewed. It was like the most nerve-wracking experience ever. But I was super excited because I had gotten someone, the person who was interviewing me was a person that I had been chatting with during the initial time when we were in the lounge. And so he was really cool, and I also had a person from HR that was new, and she was really upbeat, and the interview just went really well. We ended up kind of joking at the end and laughing, and I was telling him about my town and everything. And it turned out it was a good experience. It was a completely different experience than the experience I had the first time. So I kind of explained my experience, and now I want to give some tips as to the interview process itself. Tip number 1, be prepared. Before you start applying for an airline, before you start the process of applying to become a flight attendant, make sure that you have things like a resume done, a very good resume. Make sure it's cleaned up. It has a list of all of your employers and their, basically just make sure that your resume is very tuned and well organized before you even start the applying process, because once it starts it can go really fast or it could go really slow, you know, it depends. So moving on to the second tip, once you apply, be sure to take time to write a well-written cover letter. These are really important to letting the airline know you're serious, and look up exactly how to do a cover letter, because there's ways that you are supposed to address them and do that kind of thing with a cover letter. So yeah, cover letters are really important to getting past the first step. So moving along to the next tip, so you've applied and you're waiting to hear back. Chances are, if you've applied and you've worked really hard on your cover letter and your resume, you will get an email back as to the next step, and for a lot of airlines that is a video interview. For mine, they wanted us to do like an online assessment. Make sure you look up those personality assessments online if they do ask you to do one, because it is really important that you answer them honestly and you answer them in a certain way. So just look them up, because a lot of employers use those personality assessments to see, you know, what kind of person you are. So just, my advice is just answer honestly with those. If you do get to the video interview step, do exactly what I am doing right here. I am telling you guys, this is the #1 way that you will get to the next step past the video interview. Set up lighting. Make sure you have a clean background. Make sure that there are no distractions in the background, no noises, no air conditioner, no dog barking, no kids in the background. Sometimes I know that can be hard because flight attendants come from all over and they come from different backgrounds. Film at a friend's house if you have to. This is the number one thing that they are looking for, in my opinion. The second tip for the video interview is be yourself when you're answering the questions. It's not as much about answering the questions as it is about being yourself. So don't be a fake person during the video interview. Answer normally. Answer how you would if you were talking to your sibling or your parent. If you follow those steps, most likely you will get to the next step where they do the phone screening and you will get to the face-to-face interview. Alright, so you're at the point where you are getting to your face-to-face interview. They have called you, they're gonna fly you out to the face-to-face interview. Think number one thing, and I don't care, like people say the airline industry is all about the passport when they're hiring you. They say all they need is a receipt of passport, but just before you apply, even before you apply, just get your passport, okay? Just do it because it's one of those really important things that you're gonna need either way. So just before you even apply, just start getting your passport right away. So you are on your way to the face-to-face interview. Please, please, please don't be a copycat. There's two main things that are really important with your face-to-face interview. The first thing is dress conservatively. Dress how you think a flight attendant would need to look, but don't be a copycat. There's a fine line between dressing what you think a flight attendant should look like and looking exactly like what the airline that you're applying for's flight attendants look like. The second thing that is so important with your face-to-face interview is be yourself. I cannot say this enough. Be yourself. It's the people that were trying to be someone else during the interview that did not get hired. Be yourself. Don't go over the top. Don't use crazy hand gestures while you're, oh, I want to be a flight attendant. I'd be so good at it. These were the people, in my opinion, this is only my opinion, that did not get hired, all right? So when you go into your face-to-face interview and you are talking to a recruiter, you're talking to the person who could potentially be hiring you, it is a face-to-face conversation. It is not an interview, strict, answer the question, kind of thing. It is very structured, so make sure you know the STAR method, make sure you know you're structuring your answers, but make it into a conversation. That was the thing I did. I answered the questions, but if there's a little time in between each question, that's when you start, getting a little personal. It's okay if they laugh or if you introduce something, like bring it down to a level where it feels like a conversation. The biggest thing is that they want to see that you can engage and you can be good. You can be face-to-face and very genuine about who you are, and those are the people that they want to be a part of their airline. They can tell it, so don't try to fake it. They can tell when you're being fake. It's like, that's why not a lot of people get hired, because they go in there and they try to go over the top. Yes, you need to speak and not be an introvert. You need to speak to people and everything, but don't be someone you're not. That is the biggest piece of advice I could give you for the face-to-face interview. That was a lot, guys. I'm sorry if this video is long. I'm sorry if there's a lot of things, but the flight attendant interview process is it's not this easy thing you're just gonna kind of waltz through. It's something that when you're done, then you get that conditional job offer, you're gonna go, and you're just gonna be so happy and so excited for what's next in your life. And the other thing I just wanna say is that I was rejected with an airline first. You can become a flight attendant if you put your heart into it. You have to not let the rejection get to you, because you might not get it the first time, and even more reason to go back with more confidence and more experience about the interview process. You'll know so much more going into it the second time. So don't take that as a failure. Take that as a learning experience. A lot of airlines let you apply again after a certain period of time, and they're happy to see that you are interviewing for a second time, and that might even be to your advantage during the interview process. The last thing I just want to say is, guys, please ask me any questions that you'd like. I know there's a lot of other flight attendants out there, so I'm not putting them down at all. I just want you to know, if you have any questions about the flight attendant interview process, I am here. You can message me here on YouTube. I will answer. I might be a little faster on Twitter. My handle is @JoshuaPartridge. I'll link it below so you can take a look at it. And lastly, if you haven't subscribed to my videos here, I know I'm gonna be posting some vlogs and they may not always have to do with the flight attendant videos, but I'm gonna put a lot of flight attendant stuff in my videos. So if you wouldn't mind just showing me a little support and hitting that subscribe button, that would be so great. You guys have an excellent day. Thanks so much for watching. Peace.